So this is the MSR Front Range. It's a pyramid tent, single wall, floorless. It's really only my first night using this particular pyramid tent, so I'm not going to really comment too much on whether I think it's a great tent or not. Basically, it's a pyramid tent. They're all pretty similar. I will talk a bit about why I like pyramid tents so much. I'm out on this pretty nice alpine little valley. Perfect place for a pyramid in my mind. Winter camping, deep snow. There's about a meter and a half of snow. So I've been using pyramid tents for about probably over 10 years. The first time I ever saw one being used was in this picture in the trip report by Ryan Jordan on the Arctic 1000, and there were these two little flimsy looking shelters compared to the big backpacking tents that I was used to at the time. And this was like 2006, around then. I can't remember the date exact. And they used these little, almost what I considered silly shelters. I kind of fell in love with them then. It's the aesthetic. There's something about it. It looks like a tent from the past, but kind of a modern take on it. There's something about the simplicity, just that design that stake out the four corners and you just pop a pole in the middle and you're ready to go. I personally like them. Are they the best thing out there? Well, I don't know. There's probably situations where there's something better. In terms of what's actually better with a pyramid versus some kind of other tent, like a freestanding tent or something like that, clearly a weight saving. So if you go out and buy a winter tent, it's going to run at like 5, 6, 7, 8 pounds. It's going to take up a massive amount of space in your pack. I find I get a lot less condensation, and that's just because you're not sealed in that inner tent like in a double wall or single wall tent. So I'm sure that you get more airflow. That means that you have less moisture. Now, there's obviously some things that you have to get used to. It's a type of tarp camping, and if you've never tarp camped before, well, that's an adjustment. For winter camping particularly, you have to get used to sleeping on the snow. So you don't have this nice little sort of house where you can just spread all your gear and none of your gear touches the snow. You've got to become kind of completely used to the fact that all of your gear is just on the snow. You're setting yourself up somehow on the snow. I like to use 2 ground pads in the winter. That's just my preference, but you could also just use a ground cloth like this at Tyvek. I've done that too. The last kind of disadvantage, I don't know if it's really a disadvantage or not, but it's just a fact, is that there's a learning curve to setting them up. This kind of shelter, you need to learn how to stake it out and it be bomb-proof. That takes some time to practice. If you're out in the winter and there's no snow, it can be a problem because it's pretty hard to bang your stakes in. If you're somewhere where you can't get stakes in and you have to use rocks, that's pretty tricky too. And if the snow is loose, or any kind of snow takes some practice, kind of thing that I would say, if you're interested in this kind of shelter, more than any other kind of tent, assume that there's going to be a learning curve and put in the time practicing a bit at home whenever you can get out on the snow and figure out what works best in those conditions. And then you get kind of a toolkit of what works where and how it works. If you're in really light, fluffy, powdery snow, it can be really challenging. That being said, once everything hardens and is solid, this thing is not going anywhere. I try and use big branches as much as possible in the snow, just because the larger your stake, the more it's going to hold. You can get it down deeper in the snow. If ever it's something that interests you, I'd say go for it. Take the time to learn how to use it, and it should be a lot of fun. I forgot to mention one other thing. You need to have poles, and I don't like hiking that much with poles, so I'm always having to figure out some kind of workaround. But most people nowadays hike with poles, so maybe it's not that much of a problem. But yeah, you need to be thinking of some kind of piece of material to stick up in the middle to hold the tent up. So that's it, pretty compact. This one weighs in at 28 ounces, I think, and my other pyramid, my OAir 9x9, weighs in at exactly the same thing, so like 26 or 28 ounces. That's the MSR version. The jury's out. Is it any better than the other one? Probably the same. It's nice that it comes in a commercial package. They both work. I haven't had problems with the OAir, my OAir pyramid, and it's pretty much the same size, same weight. This one's nice because it comes with stakes, guy lines, and the straps to tie your pole together. But overall, you know, they're pretty much all similar. Mountain Laurel Designs makes them, Hyperlight Mountain Gear makes them, Aware like the one I have, and then the big commercial companies are MSR, and Black Diamond makes one also.